explaining physics in heels. Today's lesson with Professor Diva, physics for everyone. Today's lecture is studying the universe. Today's lesson, we're going to talk about what is science, what does physics actually do, and what are the tools that physics utilizes to learn more about the universe. You are here to learn physics from me, a theoretical physicist. And as a theorist, I adore asking questions. That's what physics is, asking a bunch of big questions. We as scientists, we always allow our curiosity to lead us to where we think we're going to find the most insightful of questions. We don't really take things for granted. We always go deeper and deeper. So, what should be the first question that we want to answer? First question that we should start with is, what is physics? Spoiler alert, it is very difficult to define what physics is. A lot of concepts in physics are slippery. We have an intuitive understanding of what they are, but we can't really come up with like this formal definition to describe them. You ever tried to define the concept of time? Time is one of those abstractions that we all intuitively know what it is and what it's supposed to represent, but whenever we try to define it, we end up with a logical paradox. I've seen some people try to define time as the amount you wait, but then I ask the question, what is waiting then? Waiting is doing nothing, allowing time to pass. So we come back to the question, then what is time? So I'm sorry to say it, but we can't actually define what time is. We can only feel it intuitively. However, I'm gonna give you a bit of a spoiler. Time is a physical phenomenon. Think about it. We know that time passes because we see things change in the environment. For example, with our clock that I just erased, we know that time passes because the arrows are moving. So it is motion that induces in us a feeling of time. For the sake of this class, I'm going to give you some working definitions because I want you to be able to visualize physical phenomena and to visualize physics, because imagination is one of the most important skills that a physicist should possess. So our first working definition for physics is the science that studies motion. We have three key words in this definition. First of all, science. What is science? We're going to talk about it very soon. And then we have the word studies, and finally, motion. So let's unpack this definition word by word, starting with motion. Motion, as I've written down, is a change in position of an object. The second word in our definition that we're going to unpack is study, to understand something better. For example, seeing my heels fall makes me, as a theoretical physicist, ask the question, why do heels fall? Because of gravity. Then I ask another question, do all pairs of heels fall? Yes, because gravity affects all heels in this world. Do other objects outside of heels fall because of gravity? And the answer is, yet again, yes. Gravity affects all objects in this world. By studying motion, physics understands better how and why objects in this world move. Fun fact, the word analyze actually means taking one great whole and dividing it up into smaller bits. Why does it matter that analyzing means dividing things into smaller bits? Well, that's what understanding actually is. When you divide a complex concept into smaller bits that are more easily digestible, your understanding will be better because the concept you are trying to understand has suddenly become simpler. That is how physicists analyze motion. They take one great whole and they divide it into smaller bits, and then they study each bit individually, and then they put everything back together to get the larger picture. Be very careful. Heels falling is not physics. Explaining why heels fall is physics. Natural phenomena exists on its own without our input. Physics is the endeavor to explain why natural phenomena happen. Someone once told me, listening to music is physics, right? Because of the waves traveling through your... No, music existing is not physics. Explaining that music comes from an oscillation that makes the air vibrate, and that vibration travels to our ear, that is physics. Explaining why we experience the sensation of music. Think of it like this. Walking in heels is not heels dancing, right? Supermodels, they walk in heels, but they're not heels dancers. In order for you to dance in heels, you need to wear heels, but you need to intentionally start dancing. You need to perform some very specific moves that we define to be heels dancing. Same thing with physics. Physics is utilizing the language of mathematics to analyze and to study the motion of the natural world. So please be very careful. Make this distinction. Natural phenomena, explaining natural phenomena is then physics. Our last word that we need to define is science. Well, we hear this word so incredibly much, right? What is science? There's only one key word that defines science. Can you guess it? I'm gonna give you a second. Science is experiment. A science is a field of study that builds knowledge based on experiments and experimentation. Physics is a science, chemistry is a science, biology is a science. Is political science a science? No, political science is not a science because it doesn't utilize experiments to put out knowledge. Just because a subject isn't a science doesn't mean that it is any less rigorous or any less technical. It just means that it gains knowledge through different means. Well, you might have already asked yourself a very important question, and that is, what is an experiment? And I would be so proud of you if you did. You're starting to think like a physicist. An experiment is a recipe that all scientists need to follow in order to make sure that they produce accurate, objective knowledge. Step number 1, scientists need to come up with a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a guess about the natural world. For example, let's say we want to study heels and how heels move in the real world. My guess is that all shoes that have a heel organically have a tendency to go up on their own. The second step of an experiment is we need to create a testable prediction based on our guess about the world. You hold a pair of heels and let it go. When we let go of that pair of heels should go up on its own. Oh, what do we do with this testable prediction? Well, we actually put it to the test, as you might have expected. To put it to the test, we need to see our guess about the natural world in action. You know what? Just for you, let's test it out. Let's conduct your first ever experiment together. Well, as it turns out, the test shows the fact that our hypothesis was wrong. When we actually tested our prediction, we realized that in reality the heels went down. Actually need to go back to the first step and we need to revise our hypothesis. And we need to change one key aspect. We said that heels go up. Well, the test showed that heels actually have a tendency to go down. So now let's test the experiment again. It turns out the heels keep going down every single time we perform the test. Which means that for step 4, we need to analyze the result and we need to put out new knowledge. What is our knowledge? It is that all heels have a tendency to go down when left alone. And this is the result of our experiment. To me, physics is the poetry of nature. But just like in the case of poetry, you need to be able to speak a language in order to read and write poetry. So what is the language of physics? The language of physics is mathematics. In order to be a physicist, you need to speak math fluently. And as a theoretical physicist, I speak some very niche dialects of mathematics, such as multivariable calculus, or group theory, or a differential geometry, or complex analysis. So then, is physics just applied mathematics? No, not at all. It's almost like asking, is literature the same as linguistics? No, just because you speak a language doesn't mean that you understand how the experience of language forms in the human brain. But also, just because you know how the experience of human language forms in the brain doesn't mean that you can write a novel on your own. That's the difference between physics and math. Mathematicians are the linguists who study this language that is mathematics, whereas physicists are the ones who speak and who create using the language of mathematics. Now, one final thing I really want you to remember is that physics is not a perfect field of study. We make so many approximations in physics, but that doesn't mean that physics doesn't work. It just means that we need to be aware and keep track of all of our approximations. Nature is absurd. Nature is a very complicated thing. We approximate to simplify, and then we simplify to understand. One superb thing that physics has taught me about life is that in life, if you try to look and find a solution that works 100% of the time, you're never gonna find one. But if you look for a solution that works 90% of the time, you're gonna find plenty. In life, it's more important to be present and to be wise than to be perfect. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to me. If you want more physics, be sure to subscribe and to hit that bell icon so you can be one of the first people notified when I upload a new lecture on a really fascinating topic. And if you want to get to know me better, check out my Instagram, Physicist in Heels, where I post reels daily. Well, see you next time.